Hey everybody, it's Anna. Today I'm going to be leading you through a basics sequence, so good for anybody new to yoga or just to kind of get back to the fundamentals and how you connect to the shapes and ground and find stability. We'll be using 2 blocks and a strap. If you don't have those props at home, see if you can find a couple of thick books. You could even use a low stool if you needed to, or even a chair could work, just to support your hands if reaching to the floor doesn't work. And with the strap, even something like a belt or a tie or a rope even would work. Just something that's fairly long, and we're going to loop it around our feet at the end to do a little leg stretch. So grab your props, whatever they might look like, and we'll get started. So take a moment to come to a comfortable seat. And I like to have a block underneath my hips so the hips are higher than the knees. If it's not super comfortable to sit in a cross-legged position, any seat will do. And you can also prop up your knees with blocks if they don't touch the ground really comfortably. Start to let your eyes float closed. The hands can rest wherever you'd like them to. Think about sitting up nice and tall, so rooting down to the hips, lengthening up through the crown. And start a few generous breaths. Mostly we're breathing through the nose in yoga. But for these first few breaths, if you'd like to breathe in through the nose and out on a little sigh, sometimes that can feel nice. And just take 2 more full breaths. Start to notice how the body feels. Notice anything in the body that needs your care and attention today. Notice also anything that feels great. And take your hands together in prayer at the heart. And take a moment here to set an intention for your practice. And think of it less as a goal that you need to accomplish, but a way that you want to direct your thoughts and your energy for this time. And offer up that intention. We'll open together with an Om, taking a deep breath in. Start to float open your eyes, and if you are sitting on anything or have blocks under your legs, shift them out of the way, and we'll come to hands and knees. So you'll place your hands under your shoulders and your knees about under your hips. If you're able to untuck your toes and press down to the tops of the feet, go ahead and do that. If that bugs your arches, just tuck the toes back under. On your inhale, let your belly drop. We'll open through the shoulders, tilt up the hips, and look up for cow. And as you exhale, round the spine, tuck under the tailbone, drop the head for cat. Next inhale, come back to cow. So low belly, broad chest, lifted gaze, lifted tail. And then exhale to round, and again, letting the head drop, pushing into the hands. Good. Take yourself through 2 more rounds of this. And try to work the breathing and the movement together. So you're working at a pace that matches the pace of your breathing. After you next exhale into that cat pose, come to a neutral spine. And we'll start to step the left toes behind, touch down the toes, start to stabilize around the belly, and send the right arm forward. Take an inhale, and when you exhale, float the left leg up. And we'll take 3 breaths here, just finding a little bit of strength, a little bit of a balance challenge, connecting to those long, deep breaths. Take 1 more inhale, and as you exhale, set the hand down, set the knee down, and we'll switch sides. So step the right toes back, send the left arm forward. Take a minute to find the stability of the right hand and the left knee on your mat. Inhale to prepare, and exhale to lift, and hold on to that, working a nice deep breath. 1 more inhale where you are. And then exhale, set the hand down, set the knee down. So now you're going to take a peek over your left shoulder and kind of wave your hips over to the left. So you're making a C curve in the spine. Come through center, take a glance to the right, Wave your hips to the right. And we'll do that 2 more times. Gazing left and gazing right. Gazing left and gazing right. Come back to center and move your left hand a little bit more under your heart so the left hand is more centered on your mat. With your inhale, your right arm is going to rise, so you're twisting to face the right side of your space. And as you exhale, the right arm will dive under the left. You won't land it. We're going to flow this. On your inhale, raise the arm again. And on your exhale, dive under. Inhale, reach. This time as you dive under, let the shoulder land or get close to the mat. You can let the side of the head rest on the mat, reaching that left arm forward or wrapping the left arm behind the back if that feels good. Just one more breath here. Walk your left hand back in a little closer. Inhale, raise the right arm back up to the sky. And then we'll switch. So the right hand will move a little bit more centered on your mat, roughly under the heart center. And with your inhale, you'll raise the left arm up. And as you exhale, dive under, don't quite land. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, dive under. Once more, inhale, rise up. This time as you dive under, send the shoulder and the side of the head to the mat. The right hand can stay where it is. You can walk the right arm a little bit further forward. You can wrap the right arm behind the back. And then walk that right hand a little closer in and raise the left arm back up to the sky. One more inhale here, and then exhale, set your hand down. So we'll move the hands a little further forward and tuck under the toes. Take a good inhale. And with your exhale, find a down dog. So the hips are lifted. The knees can stay pretty bent here. You're making an upside down V shape. And if you wanted to pedal out your legs a few times, you could. The hips could wiggle. You could let your head shake. Take one more breath here and then start a slow walk of the feet to about halfway forward. Bend a lot into the knees and walk your hands back to meet your feet. Slide your hands to your shins and start to press your body halfway up. So you're looking for the stability that you created when we were on all fours a moment ago. Find that in the trunk right here. And then you can fold a little deeper, letting the head and neck go. Bend into the knees, bring your hands up to your hips, and start a nice slow roll up to stand. Good, and then once you're up to standing, go ahead and step right up to the top of the mat. Your blocks are going to be handy on either side of the front of the mat for you. Your feet are hips distance. You can take a moment with hands to prayer at the heart. And on your inhale, circle your arms out and up. Hold on to your left wrist and your right hand, lengthen. And then tilt over to the left as you root into that right foot. See if you can maybe even turn your gaze up to the right, peeking underneath that right arm. On your inhale, come up through center, switch your grip, and tilt off to the right, looking up underneath your left arm. On your inhale, rise back up, and with your exhale, fold forward over your legs. Reach for the blocks, put them at their highest height, walk them forward, and then again, create that long, stable spine. Then you'll walk the blocks to the outer edges of your feet and step your left toes back. So you're stepping into what I call a runner's lunge. And you can adjust the blocks to whatever height works for you. You want to feel that your hips can feel fairly heavy. You're energizing back into that left heel, looking a little bit forward. Take a good breath in here. And as you exhale, start to lift the hips. So you'll lengthen out the right leg. It doesn't have to go all the way straight, and you can adjust the height of the blocks as needed. We'll flow this 2 more times, linking breath to movement. Inhaling, the right knee bends. Exhaling, the hips lift. Inhale, bend. And exhale, lift. Bend your right knee. Release your left knee down. Untuck the left toes. And start to bring your hands to the top of the right knee, so you're bringing yourself into this low lunge shape. See if you can feel the top of that left foot rooting down, and start to sweep the arms up. You can turn your gaze upward, breathing into the front of the left hip. One more breath here, and as you exhale, bring your hands to the blocks and let your hips shift a little back, wiggling your right foot a touch further forward. Turn to the heel. So I'm going to adjust the blocks a little further back so that I have leverage to find length through my spine. It's always fine to put a little bend in the knee. You're still going to feel a stretch in the hamstring. Finding length first, and then a little bow over the leg. Maybe you let your head release and relax. Take one more breath here. And then rise up. So we're going to do a little pivot. The left foot will swing behind you. You'll face the side of your mat coming into what we call gate pose. So you're kneeling on your left shin, right leg is outstretched, the arms reach out wide. Take an inhale here, and as you exhale, tilt toward that outstretched leg. Roll back your left ribs. Take one more breath here, and then rise up again. You're going to turn your right toes to face forward and bend the knee. And you can drag this foot in a little bit closer. And we'll just do little pulses here. So bending the knee a little bit more, working a little bit of a stretch in the inner left thigh, coming out of it. You can extend the arms. It's a little Warrior Two variation. And we'll take one more really good breath here, just pulsing in and out. Start to turn to face forward. You can travel with the blocks and set them at the top of the mat again. And bring your right leg back to meet your left. So we'll be back to all fours. Place your hands forward of, rather your hands are a little forward than hands and knees. Shift your hips forward of your knees. So you're in a supported plank. Look a little forward. Take a good breath in, and when you bend your elbows, try to point them straight back. We'll lower all the way down to the belly. When you get to the belly, you can kind of reset, lift, and lengthen out your legs. And then set your hands by the edges of the ribs. Press down to the tops of the feet. Feel the pubic bone rooting down. And inhale, just lift a little bit. Baby cobra. As you exhale, lower right back down. Inhale, lifting again. If you wanted to lift a little higher, you could. And exhale as you lower. And for your third inhale, you'll take another cobra. If you wanted to try up dog, the difference between the two shapes, with up dog, we press the arms straight and root just to the tops of the feet. So the legs are energetically pressing up, heart and face are moving forward. That's always an option, but you don't have to do that. Otherwise, you're back in your camel. We'll come through hands and knees, tuck under the toes, and begin to lift the hips for downward facing dog. Keeping that soft bend in the knees, hands nicely rooted, fingers spread fairly wide. Start a bent knee walk about halfway forward. Keep the knees bent, walk the hands back. Find your shins and again lift halfway, working that stability of the spine. And then fold and working ease and relaxation through the upper body. Keep a good bend in your knees, hands to your hips. Come all the way up to stand. And we'll work that little sun salutation variation on the other side. Step up to the top of your mat. Make sure your blocks are handy. Come to prayer at the heart. Take a moment to arrive, feet hips distance. And with your inhale, circle the arms out and up. You can hold your right wrist first. Lengthen on an inhale. Tilt left on an exhale. Inhale up through center, switch your grip, tilt to the right. Inhale up through center, and with a good amount of bend in your knees so your hips can hinge back, fold forward, find the blocks. Walk them a little bit forward, rise halfway up. Think about stability, core should be working here. Then walk the blocks to the outer edges of your feet. and step your right toes back. And again, you can adjust the blocks to whatever height you want. Settle into the hips, look a little forward, take a breath in. As you exhale, the hips lift to draw this left leg long. Your knee doesn't have to go straight, and you can adjust the height of the blocks. We'll work that on the breath rhythm 2 more times. Inhaling as the knee bends. Exhaling as the hips lift. Inhale, bend. And exhale, lift. Bend your left knee, release your right knee down to the mat, untuck the toes, walk your hands up to the top of your knee, and start to sweep the arms up. See if you can feel the top of the right foot rooting down. You can turn your gaze upwards so you've got a little bit of a curve, backward curve to your spine. One more breath here, and then as you exhale, place your hands back to the blocks. Let your hips shift back. Wiggle the left foot a little further forward. Turn to the heel. It's fine to maintain a little bend in the knee. You can move the blocks a little bit further in toward you. Think about sitting up nice and tall as you feel that left hip draw heavy. Your left toes are pointing up. You can always stay here. I'm already feeling a big stretch in the leg just by staying here. If you wanted to bow a little closer to the leg, you could. Maybe working that ease through the head and neck. Easy shoulders. Start to rise back up, and we'll take that little pivot. So I'll turn my back to you for a moment as you walk around to face the right side of your mat, kneeling on the right shin. The outer edge of your left foot is parallel to the top of the mat. You reach wide through the arms and then tilt toward that outstretched left leg. Roll back through the right ribs. Take one more good breath in, and then come back up. Turn your left toes to face forward. You can draw the foot in a little closer. Hands to the hips to start just little pulses into this modified warrior 2. It's fine if the knee goes a little past the ankle in this shape. We're not bearing a ton of weight on that front leg. Arms could extend. And just working intuitively with this, finding that play and that rhythm of coming into the shape and out of the shape. We'll take one more pulse in and out. And then take a little crawl back to face forward. Bring your left foot back to meet your right, left leg back to meet your right. From all fours, we'll walk the hands a little further forward. Shift the hips forward so you're in a supported plank. If you wanted to take the full plank, toes tuck under and knees lift. In either case, we're going to lower straight and strong to the belly. So continue to work core stability. Bend the elbows to point back. Come all the way down. Adjust the legs a little bit. Walk the hands by the ribs. And find an inhale for cobra. If you wanted to play with up dog, you absolutely could. Coming through hands and knees. Tuck under the toes. And lift the hips for down dog. And again, keep the knees bent. Use the hands to press the hips up and back. Lift up to the tiptoes, take a look forward, and then begin a walk forward. When you need to, the hands walk back to meet the feet. You slide the hands to the shins to find that halfway lift, strong through the core. And then fold in a little bit deeper. Root into your feet, inhale, rise up to stand. Meet your palms. And then exhale, prayer to the heart center. You can close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath. And we'll work a few standing poses on each side. So we're going to start at the front of the mat, take a little walk forward. Make sure, again, your blocks are handy at the edges of your mat. Feet hips distance. Toes pointing forward, begin to bend your knees, try to track the knees with the toes. Hips hinge back and arms are just going to reach forward to help counterbalance that. So if you wanted to reach the arms up, you could, but sometimes as the hands reach forward, that allows us to get the glutes to help us support this chair pose shape. Take one more breath. And then rise all the way up to stand. You can circle your arms out and up, take a little bit of a lift. Soft bend through the knees, dive forward, find your blocks. Walk them a little bit forward, lift halfway up, and then walk the blocks to the outer edges of the feet and step your left toes back. So when you step your left toes back, you're going to spin down to the sole of the foot. You can roughly line up your front heel and your back heel. There's a lot of variation and play with that. Most important is that you feel stable. So if that's not a perfect sort of line connecting the two, that's fine. Right knee bends. We're going to circle up and open. We kind of took this shape already with our knee on the ground. So this is Warrior Two. The right thigh is pressing to the right. Roughly speaking, the knee aims in line with the toes on that front foot. Keep this happening. Take your left hand to your back leg. And inhale to sweep the right arm up and away. Breathing into the right side body. We're working a little side core here. And then bring your forearm to your thigh. As you set up your forearm, check that this right shoulder is drawing away from the ear. Raise the left arm straight up, working this little open twist, maintaining the stability and grounding of the feet. You have 2 more breaths right here. Rising back up, find that Warrior Two, and we'll work the pulses just like we did with our knee on the ground. So you'll lift a little out of the shape and then settle back in. And these are tiny little movements. This time around, you do want to just watch that the knee goes about to the ankle, no further. That's a rough guideline. Generally, you just want to feel no pain or pressure in the front knee. This is working leg strength, which I'm sure you're feeling. You got 1 more pulse in and out here. And then we'll take it to Peaceful Warrior again, that tip back. Keep tipping back and push your right foot into the mat to straighten the right leg. Come upright and do a little heel toe of that left foot forward. So both legs are roughly straight. There could be a little bend in this right knee. You're going to reach out and lightly set your hand on your leg, or even better, find a block. And one thing I really like when I'm working with my basics students is to do a double stack of the blocks. So level 1 and level 3 on top of level 1 as the left arm reaches up over the right. Work again the stability of the feet. We're not gripping with the toes, but we're not lifting them. Trying to get an even inner and outer foot connection to the mat. You have 2 more breaths here. Keeping the feet firmly connected to the mat, working the core to rise up. We'll turn to face this side of the mat, the left side of the mat. Hands can come to prayer. And then you're just going to walk your feet a little bit closer. Have a block handy. You might use it. And we'll step up or lift up to the right tiptoes. Turn the right knee out and set the heel inside of the left leg. So you could bring the block in to support a little lift of that foot for tree pose. And if you're kind of continuing, you can bring the foot to the lower leg. You can help it to the upper leg. Hands can stay at prayer at the heart, or arms can rise. One thing to know is that tree pose is meant to be a little wobbly. So it would be great if your left ankle were moving a little bit, because that would mean that your lower leg muscles are responding. So don't feel like you have to sit stock still, like buildings. Big buildings sway in the wind as well. Hands back together in prayer at the heart. Let's work a little bit of core strength. So see if you can turn your right knee forward. You're welcome to keep your toes on the block. Otherwise, see if you can lift and hold that knee out in front of you, belly button in and up, and arms can rise up if you'd like to try. 1 more breath here. Hands to prayer. Set the foot down. You can kind of kick that block out of the way. And we'll just do a quarter turn to face forward again and walk back up to the top of the mat, resetting the blocks. Feet are under the hips. And when you're ready, direct the knees with the toes. Hips hinge back, arms reach forward. So as the arms reach forward, we have a little counterbalance and we can let the hips hinge back, working the action in the back of the legs to help us take this. Basically, it's a squat type shape. Big inhale to stand all the way up. Circle your arms out and up. And exhale to fold forward over your legs, reaching for the blocks. Walk them a little bit forward. Work that lift and stabilization of the upper body. Walk the blocks to the outer edges of the feet and step your right toes back. You'll spin down to the sole of the right foot. Again, it's a rough line between the left heel and the right heel, but most important is that you feel stable. But you're taking up a good amount of length on your mat. Left knee bends, right arm reaches back, left arm reaches forward. Working into Warrior Two, that left thigh is broadening out to the left. Left knee is roughly pointing in line with the toes. Touch the right hand to the back leg, sweep up through the left fingertips, breathe into the left ribs, work a little bit of side core stability. And then place your left forearm to the thigh and raise your right arm up. See if you can continue to work that left shoulder away from the ear. So that's actually working on the stability of your shoulder blade on your back. So you should feel your back helping to keep that shoulder down. Turn open, right ribs roll back. Take one more breath. And then rise up, find your Warrior Two, and we'll work a little bit of a pulse here. So a gentle lift up and out, and then a settling back in. Here we are working on not letting that knee jut too far past the ankle. Most important is that you pay attention to how the knee feels. So pressure or pain in the knee, maybe do less of a bend. Let's take one more pulse in and out, working strength in the low body. We'll take one more peaceful warrior, and then keep reaching up as that left leg presses long. Come upright, hop your back foot in, maybe a step or so. And again, I'm going to set up that sort of double stack of the blocks. As you come into triangle, first of all, it's fine for the knee to bend. The hips are hinging back. You can always just lightly land your hand on your leg, lower leg, or find that block. Turn right ribs over left, right arm over left. Keep the inner edge of the front foot grounded, outer edge of the back foot grounded. And then toes are in a nice balance, not gripping, not lifting. 2 more deep breaths here. From here, start to rise back up, and I'm going to move to face away from you for a moment. So we'll move to face the side of the mat, hands to prayer, and then I'm going to turn so that you can see me, but you'll continue to face whichever way you're facing. Have a block handy. We're going to work with the left foot coming into tree this time. So from here, you'll lift up to the left tiptoes, turn out to the left, find to have your toes on the mat. You can draw the block to set your toes on. You can bring the foot higher up onto the leg. Totally up to you. Try to keep that right hip hugging in towards center, so not too much of a flare. Hands to prayer. Arms can rise. Let that right ankle move and be responsive. Keeping your gaze steady is always helpful here. Take one more really good breath. And then bring your hands back to prayer. And we'll set the toes down and turn the knee forward so you can just stay with your toes on the block. Otherwise, engaging through belly and side core, lift the knee. Hang out, breathe, maybe lift the arms. Longer and taller through the spine. You've got one more really good breath here. And then hands to prayer, set the foot down. You can kick the block out of the way. We will find our way onto our back. So make sure that you know where your strap is. And you won't need the blocks anymore, so you can move those out of the way. Once you get to your back, bend the knees, feet underneath the hips, arms along the sides. We're going to hold on to the edges of the mat. So this is going to ask our back body again to keep the shoulder blades stable as we start to work a little hip extension and spine extension. So rooting firmly through the feet, begin to lift the hips. As you hold the edges of the mat, you might almost feel like you're going to tear 2 pieces out of the edge of the mat. So you're widening the arms. Feel the breath moving kind of just below the ribs here, working on strengthening through the back body. Take one more really good breath here, and then we'll lower back down. Rest for a moment with the knees together and the feet wider. Take the hands to the belly. See if, again, you can kind of feel the mid-belly moving when you breathe. So that space just above the belly button, below the ribs. And we'll try one more bridge pose. So setting the feet up back to hips width, knees pointing straight up. If you liked the arms holding the sides of the mat, the hands holding the sides of the mat, set that up again. Otherwise, working that root of the arms as you lift. So don't lose that part of this foundation just so that you feel like you can get into a spot that looks more like the pose. This is so much stronger and more supportive than the arms not being connected to the ground. If you've got that rooting of the arms, rooting of the shoulders, and you'd like to interlace underneath your back, you can. But again, set up a strong foundation for yourself. And take one more breath. Good. If you've got your hands interlaced underneath you, go ahead and release. Roll down. Knees together, feet a little bit wider, hands to the belly. And take a few deep breaths here. So from here, keep the feet at about your mat's width and let the knees also draw that wide. And we'll just windshield wiper the knees side to side a few times, little easy twists. Try maybe one more right and left. And then coming through center, find your strap or whatever you're using. And you're going to send the ball of the right foot into the strap. So the positioning is below the toes, above the arch. If it's kinder to your low back to keep this left knee bent, sole of the foot on the mat, please go ahead and do that. If you'd like to send the sole of the foot forward, you're going to get a little bit more for psoas and some of the other hip flexors here. So that's an option. From here, pull evenly on each side of the strap. So the goal actually isn't to pull the leg really close in. It's to let the right leg be fairly straight where our back is protected on the ground. We're not going to compensate through the spine. You might feel a lot behind the knee. And you can pull a little bit more on the right side of the strap. So we'll visit, this is sort of a three-part sequence. We'll visit all three portions just for a few breaths, but this is something that's really nice to start and end the day with. So if you like this supine leg strap stretch, I would say hang out for a few longer breaths than we do here. First, we'll take the leg out to the side. You can always place a block underneath that right leg to support it. I like my left hand on my hip. You could also reach out to the left with your left arm. So just one more breath here for now, but know that you could stay longer here if you'd like to. And then coming up through center, you might bend the knee a little bit as you come up. You're going to pass the strap into the left hand, and there's a little hip scooch that happens. So I'm putting my left foot down for a moment, hip scoot off to the right, and then the leg moves across to the left. This is another great spot for a block to prop the leg if this is super intense. Right hip draws down, so that's toward the front of your mat. The right arm can reach out to the right. You could look to the right if you wanted to. This stretch is actually one of the best stretches to relieve sciatic pain. There's actually some clinical data to support that. So if you have sciatica, this is a nice one to hang out with. And you got one more breath. Bend into the right knee a little bit to come back up to center. Remember to do that hip scooch back to center. And we'll take that on the other side. Left foot into the strap. Right leg extends. Totally fine to keep the knee bent and the foot on the ground here if that feels better for your back. If you stretch the leg straight, really work on that outstretched leg feeling heavy. And again, our goal in this shape, our intention isn't that the leg gets pulled really close. It's that the strap starts to help you experience length along the leg, space in the joint of the knee, and space at the front of the hip joint. And sometimes it feels nice to pull a little bit more on the left side of the strap. Send both ends of the strap into the left hand and draw your leg out to the left. You can use a block to support the outer edge of the leg. Right hand can rest on the hip, or it can reach out to the right side. And again, your number of breaths here might be a little bit longer. We'll just take one more breath here for now. Coming back up through center, make sure you take a moment to scoot the hips, so you can step the right foot down to the mat. The hips scoot to the left, and then you draw the leg across, working with the support of a block underneath that left leg if you would like to. This left hip is drawing toward the front of your space, so that's bringing length to the left side of the body. The left arm can reach to the left. You can always feel your breath moving really nicely, palpably in this shape. Take one more breath. And we'll come on back up, little bend in the knee. Set the strap aside, shift your hips back to center. If you want one more hug of the knees, you're welcome to do that. And we'll set up for resting, a nice, easy prop setup for resting if you don't have a ton of yoga props, is to just elevate the legs. So sometimes I'll just use blocks. Again, books might be nice, or if you have a chair, you could put your legs up on the seat of the chair. So a little tiny prop up of the low body can sometimes release the low back in a nice way and get that sort of feeling of reversing the flow in the legs for a little bit. And feel free to rest in Shavasana as long as you'd like.